When Yami was facing off against 80% Dante, his regeneration powers proved to be too much for him. So he relied on his greatest member of his Black Bulls brigade, Asta. Though Asta ended up being more of a hindrance in the beginning portion of this fight, his anti-magic was low and he kept needing to be saved by Yami, but knowing that Asta wanted to step up and help his captain in battle, Asta would commune with his devil Liba and would partake in a devil's bargain. In this deal with the anti-magic devil, Asta would sacrifice his human arm and Liba's devil arm would take its place, thus allowing Asta to use the true power of anti-magic. This made him so strong that he was able to run in and erase Dante's singularity, and then fought on par alongside Captain Yami. There was also another devil's bargain from Zenon, where he went from getting beaten by Yuno to pretty easily bodying him after he did his own devil's bargain and became a devil himself. But I'll be focusing on that aspect of Zenon's devil's bargain in a different video, partially because it's very likely that a devil's bargain power increase would rely entirely on the power of a devil itself and would vary heavily. So I'll be focusing on the power of Asta's devil bargain with Liba in this video, which gave him the version of himself the fandom often dubs Devil Arm Asta. This power-up is actually one of the more underrated amps in the series, and I know the reason why, as there was a lot going on at the time that it was unveiled, so please stay tuned for the discussion of how strong Asta's Devil's Bargain was. Now before we get into the video, please check out Art to the Bear's merch store link in the description. You can get some really good Black Clover merch, and it would help out our upcoming Webtoons comic called Nine Fates. That being said, let's get into the video. So Devil's Bargain gave Asta the Devil Arm, which in turn granted him true anti-magic power, whereas before, Liba just dribbled anti-magic power into the swords, but when using Liba's arm, Asta's using the anti-magic naturally, essentially using its true power. So in order to determine how strong the Devil's Bargain was, we have to determine a power level for Asta prior to the deal, which is nice and easy because he had an entire fight with Dante prior to the Devil's Bargain and after the Devil's Bargain. So we get an easy and amazing gauge of how much stronger Asta got. When we see Asta fight against Dante, we actually know that Asta really is nothing to him. When Asta was in his Black form 2, with Black Divider activated, his speed was not enough to catch or hit base Dante. So this proves that base Dante's speed dwarfed Black form 2 Black Divider Asta's speed. When it came to attack power, we don't really know how it would fare against Dante. Asta never got the chance to hit him in that instance, but I'm sure that the Black Divider would damage Dante if it hit him though, as he was dodging it. But we do get somewhat of a limit to base Dante's speed, and that is that he could not have had the ability to avoid 13 Black Divider Astas blitzing towards him thanks to Gosha's Mirror Brigade spell. This forced him to power up to 50% Devil power. With this, he avoided the Asta clones and got to him, pushing him to the ground and killed Asta with a gravity reinforced boot before he would be resurrected by Rouge, or essentially it never happened because Rouge changed fate. After this, Dante would level up to 60% Devil power. Now, it is important to keep in mind that it is stated that a 1% increase in Devil power by the Triad is a phenomenal increase in power, which essentially provides evidence that Devil percentages are exponential increases in power, not linear. As if Vonica was already at a 50% Devil power and added a mere 1%, it cannot be a huge increase in power because 1% on top of 50%, in reality it's like it's a 2% exponential increase if you do the math, as 2% of 50 is 1. So it cannot be a huge increase of power unless if it worked exponentially. Now this would mean that going from 60 to 80% would not be a 33% increase in power, but actually a lot stronger. It would also mean that going from 50% Devil power to 100% Devil power would not be just doubling their power. I'll be doing a whole entire video on Devil percentages in the future, as it's actually backed up a lot in the series that Devil increases are exponential, not linear. Asta's next form was the Berserk form, which I also call, sometimes, Black form 3, since it is his third Black form and he has 3 horns. In this form, Asta had a massive boost in power. Now, he was able to have the speed to go against a 60% Dante, when before, again, he couldn't hold a candle to base Dante's speed. He could also damage 60% Dante, but was ultimately defeated quite easily once Dante activated heavy infighting. This is where we can scale Devil Arm Asta to Berserk Asta, and even lesser versions of Asta's Black form pre-bargain. When Asta does the Devil's Bargain, not only is he in Black form 2, but he is so deprived of stamina that he can't even activate Black Divider. Yeah, we know that this is still an ability that Asta can use with the Devil Arm because he actually activated Black Divider against the Ancient Demon. But this version of Asta is fighting against a much stronger Dante. This is 80% Dante. Remember I said that a single Devil percentage is a massive amp in power. Well, this means that Dante got 20 massive power amps stronger since he fought Asta's Berserk form. Yet Asta, in his Devil Arm form, is able to blitz Dante in spurts by destroying a singularity and slashing him with his katana. Asta clearly has the power to defeat Dante, as his power can negate the singularity and one-shot him with a katana. He also had the speed to fight him, constantly parrying attacks and such, and also Asta took several shots from Dante as well. People love to downplay this version of Asta because they say that Yami carried him, which could not be further from the truth. Yami was only carrying Asta in the fight before the Devil's Bargain, which many people get the instances of the fight confused. It is also important to remember that Asta jumped into this fight with only one sword, leaving the other two behind. If he had the other swords in his grimoire, he would have had a much easier time defeating Dante. People also remove the context that Asta and Yami were fighting side by side with each other, moving in synchronization, doing similar damage to Dante. Even though Dante put the majority of his battle focus on Asta, not Yami, as stated by Yami himself. This was also a new power-up for Asta. He could only use it for 50 seconds because he was so low on stamina from the previous battles of the day. If Asta got his damage sealed away by Sekra here, he would end 80% Dante's life before the fight could even begin. Asta could have just activated Black Divider and sliced Dante away and ending the battle. So of course, the question is how much stronger Asta got with Devil's Bargain. That answer is a lot. Like I said, he goes from being way slower than base Dante to now being close in speed to him when using 80% Devil power, with the ability to blitz him in spurts, despite Asta being in a lesser form than before. He has the power to one-shot Dante with a clean shot, and has the durability to take a lot more hits. Dante cannot just easily press him down with the gravity like he did when he was only 50% Devil power. Devil's Bargain even should make Asta's base power much higher, as it would still be allowing him to use true anti-magic power in his base form. This is backed up by him being able to have any sort of battle against Noct when they first meet. Remember, Noct actually somewhat struggled against base Asta, whereas he had no difficulty against the Dark Disciple, which shows how strong this version of base Asta is after the Devil's Bargain. When it comes to actual numbers of how much stronger Asta got with Devil Union, it's hard to determine extremely accurately, but you can gauge some lowballs with how much stronger he got. They can use the guidebook to determine multipliers. We know that the Black Form 1, Asta's original transformation, is a many times multiplier in power. This can be backed up by fan calculations, where there is a calculation that determined that Asta got over 6 times faster from the Black Form when he initially used it against Ladros. But the guidebook calls Spirit Dive a many times multiplier in power, and we know that Black Form 1 is a comparable power boost, if not bigger. As in the Elf arc, Elf Yuno had a stronger base than Asta. This was shown when Asta struggled against Elf Klaus and his counterpart, whereas Yuno was able to easily move fast enough and negate the attack in just his base Elf form. Yet when they both transformed right after, they were equal. As for how much many is, several is more than 2, but it's not many, which means several is 3 at the very least, and many is at the very least a 4, meaning that this is a 4 times multiplier. So, Black Form 1 is a lowball multiplier of 4 times, but the Black Form is further amped up with Black Form 2 when he gets a second horn. Yuno goes from not being able to avoid Zagrod and Spirit Dive 1 with Monozone to blitzing Zagrod and Spirit Dive 2, meaning that Spirit Dive 2 is a Monozone amp of power on top of Spirit Dive 1 at the very least, or would be a many times increase in power. And thus the same would apply for Black Form 2 since they were fighting together, giving Asta an additional 4 times multiplier, which would give Black Form 2 at least a 16 times multiplier on top of the base form. And if we can go by the logic of each horn before Devil's Bargain is additional 4 times multiplier as a lowball, because we saw it happen twice, then Asta's Berserk form is 64 times stronger than his base form. But Black Form 2, Devil Arm Asta, was fighting better than Berserk Asta, which means at the very least, Devil Arm gave Asta a 4 times boost in overall base power. But it goes even higher because Asta went from fighting 60% Dante to 80% Dante. You can get a loose 4 times multiplier from the 20% amp, as 60% Dante's gravity made Yami struggle, but Yami needed to pair his Monozone, which would be a many times multiplier, with Black Moon, and amp it by condensing it against 80% Dante's gravity. This gives us a decent low ball of Devil's Bargain being a 16 times multiplier overall on top of Asta's base. It is likely much higher, but I'm liking a far more accurate number in my Devil Union Asta power scale that will release shortly after this arc. I actually didn't plan on putting any numbers in this video, but I thought, you know what, I'll just throw some quick numbers together. But again, these numbers aren't very accurate. It's probably a massive low ball, and there are some assumptions made, but at least gives us a slight number that you could say that Asta got at least 16 times stronger with the Devil's Bargain, but you could argue it to be way higher. And I will be releasing that Devil Union power scale once this arc concludes, so I can get all information on this version of Devil Union Asta and pour it into a video. I think the Devil's Bargain gets undercut by other power-ups. As you look at it, Berserk Asta just looks more powerful just 15 chapters earlier. It looks as a cooler form in my opinion as well. And then just 20 chapters later, we'd get Devil Union. And around that arc, you had the distractions of Asta fighting with Yami, and Asta using the katana, and even Yami getting kidnapped. So that's kind of the way that this power-up gets massively downplayed, because of two transformations happening very shortly before and after it. One looks stronger, the other one is way stronger in Devil Union. And then also, you have that Asta was just, so there's so many hype moments. Asta fighting with Yami, Asta using the katana, Asta getting the W, and then Yami getting kidnapped, that it was kind of like you had no time to analyze the power of this form. I remember there was a huge debate shortly after this came out of which was stronger, Devil Arm Asta or Berserk Asta. And of course, the answer is clearly Devil Arm Asta. He did better against a much stronger opponent. Sure, he had some help with Yami, but that does not make up for the difference. Goes to show how much of an amplification the Devil's Bargain is. Please tell me your thoughts on this video down below. Leave a like if you did enjoy, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You can follow me on Twitter as well, link down below. Hope you guys all have an amazing day. Plus...